Within this episode of Heal Your Home, we're going to be exploring damp-proof courses, their purpose and the most common reasons for them getting breached or failing. And of course, we'll have a tenant top tip and a listener question. But first, let's talk damp-proof courses.
Heal Your Home with Jason Ratcliffe.
What is a DPC, or other words known as a damp-proof course? Well, basically, it's a barrier that's put into the wall approximately 150 millimeters above ground level to prevent rising damp or water coming up from the ground. Now, these can be made out of bitumen, they can be made out of slate, they can be made out of plastics, depending on when that damp-proof course was inserted. Now, of course, there are various ages and methods of damp-proof course depending on when the property was built, but also these do come with their own issues. So this is what we're going to be looking at within this episode. So why were damp-proof courses, or DPCs, invented? As you can imagine, in the olden days where there was solid stone or brick or cob walls, there was a lot of issues with damp, and then this has a pretty big impact on the structural integrity of the home and also the internal living environment. We're going to be really clear here, not all properties have to have a damp-proof course. If you have a cob property, stone property, they do actually need a bit of moisture, but what we are talking about here are the ones that should have a damp-proof course. So these were invented to prevent long-standing issues with rising damp or penetrative dampness, mostly via capillary action. So if you put a piece of tissue you put the end of it within a bowl of water, you would then see that water rising up the tissue. That is capillary action, and it's the same principle for building construction. Now, the issue with this is it can then create higher amounts of dampness internally, and also if it gets really excessive, it can cause structural issues as well. So obviously we needed to do something about this as an industry. Previously, this was done using natural solutions such as slate and stone. So you may see older buildings with a row of slate or some form of non-porous stone going around the building. This is something that was used way back when damp-proof courses first started coming about. But obviously modern day damp-proof courses, they've evolved, they've revolutionized based on engineering and the general technology that's available. So now we've got things like bitumen and polyethylene, which does a much better job than slate and stone. So these are more commonly used within modern day. But obviously, as we then progress on, how do we know whether these are working? How do we know whether these are breaching and causing rising damp, penetrative dampness via capillary action? Well, these are the sorts of things that we're going to be looking at within this episode. So, what are the common issues of failing damp-proof courses? Well, to be honest, a lot of the issues are to do with deterioration, especially if they're older bitumen or slate type damp-proof courses where they may have broken down over time, caused deterioration, and now there's gaps and fragmentation and it's non-consistent damp-proof course throughout the property. So therefore, water is going to be able to track through those holes and cracks and get through into the property. So if this is the case, this could be an issue. So it really depends on the type of age of property, and you can then really see if there's any issues, particularly on the outside, in which would then give a good indication of what that material was that was used within the damp-proof course. But then also it will give you an understanding of what may be going on beneath the surface. So also bridging. Now, bridging is a really, really big issue. It doesn't matter if you've got a modern build, an old build, it doesn't matter. Basically, landscaping externally can cause a huge volume of issues because having those lovely flower beds pushed against the external facade of the building, or steps leading into your property, or tarmac driveways, lots of things that happen after the property is constructed that can then cause all sorts of issues. And what that then allows is a breach or a bridge to the damp-proof course, because the damp-proof course is only going to work if it's allowed to do its job. And obviously that stops water rising up through it. Now, if you then have some kind of flower bed or external grounds directly abutting the damp-proof course or near it or even above it. That will allow water to bypass that damp-proof course and get into the property. So this is something that is really important. So have a look around your property if you are experiencing that, and see if there are any areas that have been raised up externally, which may well be breaching the damp-proof course. Also, installation area. People are not perfect, and also you can have damage when it's been installed as well. People not putting it in place properly, or if other elements of the building are breaching that damp-proof course, that can also cause water to ingress and basically cause those localized areas of the damp-proof course to be ineffective. This can also happen in new builds or extensions, renovations. So don't think just because it's a modern build or it's recently been done, it is going to be foolproof. So just have a look and seeing if there are any bricks, construction, render that are in contact or breaching that damp-proof course, because this may well be the issue that you're facing. Make sure that repair works are not then breaching any damp-proof courses, because that's really not what you want to be having. If you've got a perfectly lovely damp-proof course in your home that's been installed correctly, and then somebody comes along and renders or plasters over the top of it, which can then cause breaches and accelerated water ingress. Big question. What to do if your damp-proof course fails? It's common sense. Have a look around your property. Have a really good inspection. See if there's any external grounds that are breaching. If you've had any landscaping done recently, so you've had a new tarmac drive or anything like that. See if you've got any flower beds, if there's anything going on there. Try and see if there's any localized areas of damp discoloration in your home, because that may well give you a good correspondence of what may be going on the outside. So follow the trail. That's a really big thing to do, and it really helps link those defects together. Now, obviously, if you're not a professional within the industry, I'd highly advise that you get one. Engage somebody who is understanding of building pathology, understands damp-proof courses, and is able to then give you a really good rundown as to exactly what they think is possible. Now, obviously, from a non-invasive inspection, there can be limitations. So make sure that you then go and get a contractor in, whether it's a reputable builder, etc., or damp-proof specialist, to then be able to maybe do a bit of invasive works to actually see exactly what's going on. But also thermographic cameras. Now, I'm a massive advocate for thermographic imagery. This is because it can tell you so much more than just heat loss. It can also tell you where certain localized areas of water ingress may well be coming in from a non-invasive inspection. Now, it's not a one-size-fits-all, and it certainly isn't the only method to actually engage and investigate these things, but it really does help understand potentially where issues may be occurring. Now, also, we're looking at repair options. What are the repair options? Now, you can install a new damp-proof course using chemical injections, physical membranes, and there are things like electric osmosis. But to be totally honest, I'm not a fan. I don't think they're effective, and I think they're a waste of money. There may be people out there that have had good positive results from it, but I've not seen them myself. So chemical injections and adding new damp-proof courses is the way to go, but also it may not be needed. Now, like I said before, if you've got external grounds abutting the property, you've got bridging, things like that, it may just be the case of lowering the external ground level, adding additional drainage. These are things that are a lot less expensive, a lot less invasive than starting drilling and putting more damp-proof courses in. So it's probably best to look at these non-invasive, inexpensive options before going full into getting a damp-proof course done. So it's really, really important to make sure that you understand the type of construction as well, because if you're going and trying to put a chemical injection in a stone build, cob build, it's not going to work, and also it can potentially cause further accelerated issues. So really be careful and always get expert advice prior to doing any works.
And now, a listener question for Heal Your Home.
So in this episode, we've got Alex from Weybridge. She has a Victorian property, a stone build, and is having a lot of issues with rising damp and black spot mould, and she wants to know what to do about it. So this is quite a common thing. This is quite a common email that keeps coming in to us at the show. It really depends. It's not a one size fits all. Victorian properties, especially in Weybridge, you're looking at stone, you're looking at, it is supposed to be a level of damp. Now, this is something that is really important, but also it's about managing that dampness, because obviously, as clearly you're suffering at the moment, black spot mould and huge amounts of relative humidity coming in, and the discoloration, blistering, damp staining, all of these types of things is not good for your home, not good for you and your family. So what can you do, really? I mean, one thing, always look at getting a specialist in to have a really good inspection and look around, because commonly what can happen is lack of heating, lack of ventilation is a big issue, because these walls are supposed to withhold some level of dampness to ensure that they remain structurally sound. But if you've got not enough heating maintained, not enough ventilation, what can then happen is that damp will start winning and start coming into the property. But also there may be other things that are a bit more costly, such as the plaster inside the home. If that's not breathable plaster, if it's, say, ordinary Portland cement type dense plaster, that can then cause a lot of accelerated damp and hydropressure buildup. So basically that's a lot of water that it cannot get through, it can't breathe, and then causes a lot of issues. So it may be the case, I'm not saying it is, but it may be the case that you need to have repairs done, and potentially something like a sympathetic damp-proof treatment, which isn't a damp-proof treatment. I know that the term says sympathetic damp-proof treatment, but actually it's a less porous lime-based plaster. So it's still vapor open, it's still breathable, but it just controls that lower ground level moisture a little bit more. So that may well be something that you need to consider, but it is worth getting a historic damp proof expert in for that. I hope that helps a little bit, but there is so many complexities around this, and I hope this episode can give you a little bit more on the matter as well, to give you a bit more guidance. And again, thank you so much for listening. Please, if there is anything else that we can do for you, by all means, get back in touch.
Jason's Tenant Top Tip.
So within this episode, the Tenant Top Tip can be a little bit difficult when looking at damp-proof courses, because obviously you don't have the powers to be doing invasive works or anything like that. But what you can be doing is doing things like making sure, if you do have drainage externally, making sure that that is cleared. A lot of the time, if you have blocked drains such as leaves and things like that, blocking the drainage channels, they can cause surface flooding, which then can look at causing water ingress entering into the property. So as a tenant, make sure that's cleared. Make sure you've got no stored items directly abutting the external facade. A lot of the time, storage units or bikes or debris, things that is just something you're storing externally, can cause bridging of any damp-proof course. So make sure it's clear and is able to self-ventilate. But if there are more issues, if there's more significant issues going on there, then make sure you let your landlord or your letting agent know immediately, because there may well be invasive inspections that are required, because to be honest, it doesn't go away by itself, and if it's not treated correctly and monitored, it will only get worse. And therefore, as a tenant, your responsibility is to make sure that your landlord or letting agent knows, and then their responsibility is to make sure they investigate it and make sure that it is managed.
Heal Your Home with Jason Ratcliffe.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. It really does mean a lot to me and my team. Check out the website at homehealthexpert.co.uk for more information, to check out the services that we can help with for you and your family and improve your home's health, and also for the top tip guides that we have available for you. You can submit listener questions through our website and also by emailing our team at info@homehealthexpert.co.uk. We will try our absolute best to get round to your questions and help your family out to improve your home's health. Don't forget to subscribe to Heal Your Home wherever you get your podcasts, or on YouTube if you're watching along. I look forward to you joining me in the next episode of Heal Your Home. Your health, your future, it all starts here.